is an historic day for the college sports world because colleges can start paying up to $20 million of revenue with its student athletes.
Yes, we're talking about revenue sharing, and it also comes after this legal battle over fair compensation for NIL, name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, we want to bring in University of Michigan professor Greg Dooley, who's joining us this morning. And Greg, you teach a class on NIL, so who else would we ask about all of this? But can you explain this decision to us like we're 8 years old?
Yeah, well, like you're 8 years old, maybe, but I'll try. So basically, the NCAA and the players got together and decided the current system wasn't working. And not only did they decide to compensate former athletes who weren't able to make money from their fame for playing, they set up this new process of revenue sharing, which is basically, for the first time ever, starting today, athletic departments can actually pay, say, a football player for performing in the big house, for instance. So they can actually pay them through the revenues they earn through the gate money and all that stuff. And they set up some other systems behind it. But that's the gist, up to $20 million directly coming from the athletic department, which has never been done before. And in the history of the NCAA has always been forbidden. And that starts today.
Interesting.
We were reading a letter that Ward Manuel, the athletic director, sent out at the University of Michigan, just talking about how this is going to impact the bottom line at the university. It's going to cost the university tens of millions of dollars that they weren't spending, and it wasn't part of their budget. So how does this affect universities?
Yeah, even a big university like Michigan, who has a large budget, they're projecting a $266 million budget next year. So even Michigan is taking $15 million from the university proper to help balance their budget this next year they're projecting. So as you can imagine, a lot of universities are constrained because they want to compete in all these sports and have these sports and give this $20 million, but they're trying to find ways and different methods to come up with it. And they're all kind of figuring out in their own way how to do that.
Real quick, how far back, you mentioned former athletes, how far back does it go, and which conferences are we talking about here in the NCAA?
Sure. So the back pay portion of this goes back to 2016, and they came up with a formula to pay those players, and it ends last year. The new revenue sharing, the plan was for the next 10 years to pay these athletes each year for current athletes as they go out. That's the big thing right now.
So there's also been established this College Sports Commission where they're going to be reviewing the NIL offers that players would get. It can't just be automatically accepted. There's some kind of requirement here, an approval process?
Yeah, so now we're moving up to the high school or college level. So what was happening was what was before, as we know, athletes could say earn money for driving a Ford car or Shinola watch or something like that, right? They could get paid for their fame to promote something. But what in actuality happened was a lot of fans and a lot of groups were just collecting money and effectively transferring it to the money through something called collectives. It was really kind of a shell game with the money. This commission that you mentioned is trying to crack down on that, where they say, through a company, big company, Deloitte, which many of us know, they're going to look at each transaction over a certain amount and say, yeah, that's a legitimate offer or deal for that transaction for that athlete. And they say they're going to look at all of them. That's supposed to also start here. We'll see if they're able to pull that off, because that's a lot of transactions and a lot of deals and a lot of decision making.
Well, it certainly is.
We knew when this first began, a lot of people called it a Pandora's box. Maybe this is part of closing that box just a little bit to get their hands around this. Well, Greg, we're going to talk much more with you in our 7 o'clock hour on Local 4 Plus. I know we've just kind of scratched the surface of this.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack here, and also just understanding how this impacts all athletes. I mean, I know we focus on maybe the football and the basketball team, but there's some revenue sharing that has to go across all sports. So
sports departments are huge.
Yes.
A lot of teams. So we appreciate Greg Dooley joining us.